I hope you're hungry because you're listening to Everybody Eats.
Welcome back, everybody. It's episode 18. Today we won't have any special guests, so it's just a regular duo, Edom and I. And we're going to be talking today about a couple articles, some current event articles that we want to discuss. So before that, make sure that you're following us on all platforms. Make sure you have us on Twitter. That's at everybody_eats_. On Instagram, we're at everybody_eats podcast on Instagram. Make sure you're following Everybody Eats on our YouTube channel. We have all the videos, so make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends on our YouTube channel, and just on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there to make sure that you like, you listen, comment, leave a review. On the Instagram page, we posted a picture the other day of our listeners internationally, so I just want to thank everybody who's been supporting the podcast within the United States and across the world. We got listeners in states that I don't even know anybody in these cities that I've never even heard of, so I just really want to say shout out and thank you to all the supporters wherever you are. Just thank you, and we're just going to continue producing quality content that's bringing value. So today, the first article we wanted to discuss is from BBC News. Google boss Sundar Pichai calls for AI regulation. So related to that as well this week, Google owner is actually now worth $1 trillion. So that was one of the first articles that I saw that that 1 trillion club is now Google, Apple, and Microsoft. But better yet, Alphabet, the parent company of Google, not necessarily Google itself. But Alphabet, the parent company, Apple, and Microsoft are all part of that 1 trillion club. But interestingly enough, on last episode we were talking about AI, talking about how that's growing in that field. So it's interesting seeing that he says that quote unquote Sundar Pichai said it was quote unquote too important not to impose regulation but urged for a sensible approach to AI. He said that in individual areas of AI development like self-driving cars and health tech require tailored rules. So I think that's really interesting considering how vast it's coming, how vast it's growing, to make sure that they have some sort of regulation. So there's some sort of laws of how you can use and what you can use AI for. So I thought that was really interesting. What was your take on it, Edom, or how you feel about it?
The future is now, bro, and honestly, every time AI gets brought up, first thing I say is they're going to take our jobs. And honestly, the second thing I think right away is one of those movies where they have like a usually dystopian future. Like just the other day I saw a movie called Code 8. I don't know if any of you guys watch Arrow, but the actor who plays Arrow, Stephen Amell, he did it with his brother. So the police force in the movie, they use facial recognition and stuff like that, and even a part of the article was mentioning banning facial recognition for up to 5 years.
Yeah, that's what it said. Yeah, last week revealed that the European Commission is considering a 5-year ban on facial recognition.
And the fact that even right now they're talking about considering putting up a 5-year facial recognition ban is pretty insane and intense to me, because that just shows that what they're putting out to public knowledge is definitely not even probably half of what AI is capable of. And Sundar, the fact that he wants to be really, but it seems like he's taking a moral approach about all this, just shows that there is a lot more in the works and to come to the public eye that isn't already out there. So that to me just shows a lot of things are changing. 2020, technology is coming at us fast.
Nah, for sure. I definitely agree. I mean, when it comes to like the self-driving cars, I know like Tesla, Uber, Google, they've been all trying that. But then you also hear in the news like a lot of these self-driving cars are a lot of these are getting into like accidents and things like that, right? So my initial thought when I think of self-driving cars, I'm like, I'm not trying to sound foul, but like let them fix all the bugs first. Like let them get all the kinks out in order before I even try and put myself in that position to be in a self-driving car. But then again, you see...
If you ask me, the fact that, they haven't even completely fixed self-driving cars and they're already moving on to last podcast, the Uber helicopters,
Yeah.
self-driving Uber helicopters with Hyundai. I'm pretty sure that they already have a fix for self-driving cars. It's just, they're not releasing that yet, of course, just to delay AI progression. Because one of my friends, he's I want to say computer engineer, computer science major, but he was telling me how self-driving trucks was a thing that was coming actually in the last few years, but he said they let like a trucker union know, and then they all threatened to go on strike and stop working right now.
Wow.
In the present, even though in the future it was going to be ready. So they decided, hey, if you're going to potentially take away all our jobs and remove a group of people from a whole industry, then we're going to stop working now and shut this down now, so that we'll cause a whole stop in the economy. So I heard the solution they came up with was delaying it as much as possible, so these people would, I guess, either prepare for losing their jobs, or I don't know, figure out a way to work with these people in this specific job area, so they wouldn't lose their whole livelihood.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that you said that, because again, I listened to EYL a bunch, and they had an episode where a gentleman was speaking about how to get into the trucking industry. And after listening to the episode, I was like, this sounds all great, but I was like, but I've been hearing about self-driving trucks, right? So I'm like, part of his part of his investment of getting to the trucking industry was like finding drivers, and like organizing and scheduling, drivers and truck pickups and deliveries. But, with the self-driving trucks, I was like, we'll put the driver out of business. But the thing is, though, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait until, it's dependable. But, having a truck drive on the road for hours, like, God forbid, I wonder how does that work? God forbid, it breaks down, like, God forbid something happens. Like, there's no person to be there, unless there's someone still in the car, still someone in the truck, I mean, so to speak, while it's driving. But if you're just going to have them driving themselves, I feel like it's just way more complicated than just like there has to be more to it than, unless you can just really just disrupt the whole industry by just having these trucks drive themselves. Like, I feel like it can't just be that easy. But anyway, regardless, like, I feel like that's going to have to take a lot of time. Like, people are going to have to afford to purchase these trucks, and I feel like that upfront cost is going to be pretty expensive. Like, I guess down the line, okay, you don't have to pay a worker, but I still feel like before that industry takes off, I feel like it's going to take time. I feel like it's going to just be real expensive up front, but then I guess eventually, people will start making their money, or, eventually they'll become more, affordable of having self-driving trucks. But regardless, I do see why those workers were threatened to go on strike.
Well, honestly, the way I see it, at least in my thought process, I'm being optimistic here. Maybe, of course, the word specialization is really going to have to come up again. I'm probably wrong, excuse me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like whenever, I want to say there's like an industrial revolution, or I want to say whenever the world progresses, that involves people specializing in certain areas or fields. What I think is probably going to happen is they're going to have, those would-be truck drivers are probably going to end up maybe being the tech guys, or probably sitting, who knows, in the passenger seat, working on a computer to help, make sure the truck runs smoothly.
Yeah, the jobs are gonna have to shift. Like, we were kind of talking about, last episode a little bit. We kind of brought that up. Like, whenever, like you said, kind of like whenever there's a, like a big revolution, like technological revolution, something that gets automated, jobs will get lost. But then usually, new jobs are created in order to adapt, right? And I think we're still in that phase where you kind of mentioned, before, again, a lot of tech fields are going to be, hot, you know what I mean? So those majors and those type of jobs are going to be hot. But then certain jobs that, get automated, like, you're just going to have to either find a way to adapt and start getting, learning tech skills, or, survival of the fittest, bro. Like, you're going to have to find something to do, to supplement. And you can push it down the line, but I feel like just the way technology is advancing at this rate, like it's coming no matter what. It's gonna touch every field no matter what. You just kind of have to do your best homework to prepare and to prep yourself.
Yeah, like definitely every field, like you said, is going to get touched. Sorry, moving on in the article, that I did read that Google launched an ethics board probably to regulate this. But I'm quoting this. They launched an ethics board in 2019, but it shut it down less than 2 weeks later about who had been appointed. And I watched, like I said, a lot of dystopian, futuristic movies, and like I said, my mind always goes there when it comes to AI. But I personally think what we know is human nature. People want to profit off something. People are going to monopolize and get their hands on something, be the first one to do this. So everybody else, anybody else who wants to enter the industry has a harder time getting at it, profiting off of it. And personally, I think a lot of this stuff is going to come down to whatever company can make the most advancements, you know what I mean, and also be ethical at the same time and just not abuse the power. It's definitely a big thing, and something that's really concerning to me personally, because that kind of stuff is a bit unnerving, only because I had a conversation with a friend earlier, and I feel like a lot of movies that get made in Hollywood, they when they have like one central theme about like automation or going into the future, honestly, to me that just, of course, not only I feel like does that encourage people to actually go make those things they see on the screen actually happen, but I also personally think it's like a foreshadowing of what's next to come.
Nah, for sure. I remember I took a creative writing class, and that's one thing that we discussed, how art is oftentimes a reflection of what's going on in society. So today, a lot of the movies you see will be talking about, like robots, automation, the future, and things like that. And that's just reflective of what's going on in society, a lot of the advancements that that we're going with. And they'll say if you go back to like the 70s or the 80s, a lot of the movies had a theme of like Cold War themes, for example. You know what I mean, like fighting the bad guy, the Russian bad guy, or something like that, right? And it was like that was what a lot of movies were surrounding around, but because that's what was going on in the world. And so oftentimes you'll see, like, when you see a lot of these movies with crazy advancements in technology, or these shows like Black Mirror, where all these like futuristic things, it's like part of it is a little bit like, all right, it's a little bit of a fantasy, but at the same time it's like, whoa, some of those ideas you'll see like, I feel like that's not too far away, you know what I mean, like that could be possible, like and those type of themes. So we'll see though, we'll see. I think it was just an interesting article, talking about regulation, because it is something that they have to be responsible for, if and when it becomes more prevalent. So I think it's important that he's taking that into consideration.
But granted, I'd love to see some of this stuff implemented in my lifetime. Nothing too crazy, but definitely would love to see, maybe a flying car or.
For sure. Something that doesn't require robots taking over the world. But
in other news.
So I think what we'll do right now, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and Edom has an article for us about Hip Hop Museum opening up in the Bronx. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to segment 2 of the Everybody Eats podcast. Today we're just going over some current event articles in the business field. So we just finished talking about Google and AI. The Google boss is looking for some AI regulation in that field. So this next article Edom has for us. So what is it?
So kicking off tentatively, in 2023, construction starts this summer. A hip hop museum in the Bronx with a $3.7 million budget from New York State. Mm-hmm. So Governor Andrew Cuomo signed off on a measure to contribute 3.7 million to the Bronx first hip hop museum. The funding is part of a statewide New York economic and community development package. It was chartered by the New York State Department of Education and Boards of Regents. It's to preserve and celebrate global hip hop music. The executive team is led by the director Rocky Bucano, Public Enemy's Chuck D, and Curtis Blow.
Shout out to Curtis Blow.
Oh, yep. No relation to Virgil Blow. And the cultural ambassadors are Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, LL Cool J, Grandmaster Flash, Fab Five, Freddie, and all other New York. Well, all of them are New York residents, New York residents, which is actually really dope reading through the names. It's really, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I think it's cool. One, right? They have people from the industry actually, like in charge, right? So that's what I really like. It's not like they're just pulling random people off the street saying like, here's how we're going to, champion the project, champion the project. But shout out to Curtis Blow. I got to meet him when I did the TED Talk a few years back. He was the I guess you would say the keynote speaker at the TED Talk event where I got to meet him and his son. So that's really cool. I think he went to CCNY, City College. Yeah. So, but I think that's really amazing. Like, to be honest, it kind of sounds like crazy, but I figured there would already be a hip hop museum in the Bronx. To me, that idea just seems like duh. Like, why hasn't there been one already? But Andrew Cuomo signed off at 3.7 million. So I really hope it turns out really well. I hope they don't have to deal with there's no like redlining and any unnecessary issues. But I think like that's really important if you think about how hip hop honestly just changed the world, how it touches literally every single part of the world. They said that when hip hop first started, and rap music was like first becoming a thing in the 90s, they said it'll be dead. It's just a trend, it'll be dead in like 10 years. And 20 years later, it's the #1 genre in the world. And that all just started from the South Bronx. So it's about time that they have a museum dedicated to the influence that this genre of music has on the world, on the amount of people. Like, it's just, you can't overemphasize it.
It's beautiful, especially I just finished the Wu-Tang Clan, series on Netflix.
Yeah.
And Rakim was definitely he was portrayed by another actor, but he was in it, and it's just really beautiful to hear and see that a pioneer of such a life-changing, world-changing genre is actually one of the people directly in charge. And, I don't want to make it too racial or anything, but it's really beautiful to see, like, hey, it's definitely going to spotlight a lot of black artists, and in my opinion, black artists and a lot of black impactful people in, especially our history, world history, music history, and it's just a beautiful thing to see.
100%.
And tying it back into, our earlier discussion about AI and stuff, they want to put some virtual reality in this museum.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, man. Yo, future really is now, bro.
Yeah. They say they want to put holograms and some virtual reality, so visitors will have access to virtual reality experiences as well as interactive art installations aimed at bringing hip hop to younger generations. So
bring out the hip hop hologram of Tupac.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. They'll probably have holograms of Tupac just like giving tours, like, come this way, like. So,
Michael Jackson, they gonna just throw him in there.
Yeah.
Bring it back, but that's gonna be really dope though. Definitely, I hope whenever it gets announced, I'm pretty sure that museum's gonna be bread. But I would spend the money definitely a couple times to go visit it.
Yeah, 100%.
And learn more about the genre. I hope I feel like kids these days, even myself included, I don't know a whole lot about old music groups. People like Ghostface Killer, I started listening to Wu-Tang after I watched the documentary. I tried listening to stuff before.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Come on,
I listened to them a little bit before.
Come
okay,
on,
I'll listen. Yeah, see, you got me stuttering. I listened to them a little bit before, but I definitely gave them another chance after I saw the documentary. It just gave me a little push. But I really hope this does push, especially a lot of kids in this now generation to go look back on where hip hop started and where it is now.
Start giving it the respect.
The respect it deserves, definitely.
Yeah.
Now we got a lot of little this, little that, mumble rapping artists who, worried about respect, carrying guns, drugs, all that nonsense. So definitely see where it started from and how the old heads are coming back and giving back to their community. Rant over. I'm done.
For sure. So I'm really excited. Like I said, I hope all that goes well, and I'll definitely have to check it out. So we'll take another break here, then we'll do our quote of the day and our last article. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to Everybody Eats. This is our last segment. We're going to talk about the quote of the day. So today's quote is actually something that one of our former guests, Khalil Anderson, said. So if you go back and listen to that episode, he says something very interesting where he says, sometimes there's not always a seat at the table for you, but you have to just pull up a chair anyway. And that quote has actually been in my head for the past couple of days now, along with my journey. If you follow us on Instagram, you kind of follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. You'll see that I kind of document the journey of the podcast, of just growing it. One thing that I've been learning a lot is a lot of different marketing techniques, social media marketing. That's something that I've been learning how to implement. I've been listening to a lot of people like Gary Vee and just other podcasts and just social media influencers about how to grow social media presence. One thing that I've been learning to do is just to be a little bit more bold. Just being willing to just try different things, put out content that is true, genuine, and that can, that really display yourself and your brand. And I've just been a little bit more eager in networking, just meeting more people. I just want to, meet other business owners. So when I've been thinking about Khalil's quote, sometimes there might be a page or I see someone on social media that I want to reach out to, and I feel a little bit timid of, I don't know if I should reach out to them or what they're going to think, and then I have to remind myself I can't sit here and just wait to go for this person to, introduce themselves to me if I really want to work with that person or reach out to that person. So you really do have to take that step of confidence, of boldness to just, just go ahead and pull up the chair anyway. Go send that DM, go send that email, be the first one to engage. That's something that I've been learning, and it's been beautiful, honestly, because a lot of people have been receptive, and when you are open and true and honest to yourself, people will, see that, and people are willing to help. And I've just been blessed with a lot of people who've been sort of supporting the podcast and the clothing line lately. So it's just been helping me, make it easier to just reach out and, me not afraid to try and, network or try and meet somebody. So
just not being afraid to just take the first step.
Exactly.
Especially one thing I've been learning, I run it through my head every time, even in something as small as my own part-time job, when they give me a new task to learn, I always think to myself, I'm going to be really stressed out, I'm not going to work too well. Well, honestly, it's just taking the first step and confidence,
Yeah.
Don't second guess what you're doing, but always be open to feedback, listen to others, keep your circle full of wise people with the same mindset, and honestly, just always being flexible, like water or rubber, just being able to, or putty, I should say, being able to mold and learn and keep up with new things, which, I have to commend, Bensky. He's done a great job at, better than I would have given him credit for.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely he's doing his thing. He's doing a great job. Honestly, I'm really proud of it.
Appreciate it. But yeah, man, so I'm just trying to, something I always say, I have to remind myself every day to just stay strong and keep working at. So from here we'll go to our last article, which is definitely my favorite for the day. Honestly, my favorite article of the week. honestly. So a lot of you, if you're following this, hip hop, pop culture, media, business, you may have heard of Akon creating his own city in Senegal called Akon City. So I think the first announcement came out about 2 years ago. It came out saying that he wanted to create his own city. And even from before then, Akon has been really prevalent in advancing Africa in the sense of he was looking to create like a solar city or provide lights to I think it was like 600 million people in Africa. So that's something that he's been involved in for a while. And this week he just finalized the agreement for Akon City in Senegal. So he was able to work with the president of Senegal, and the article says that the city will be built on a 2,000-acre land gifted to him by the president, and that the new city would also trade exclusively in his own digital cash currency called A Coin. The official website for the city said at the time it would be a 5-minute drive from the West African state's new international airport. So I'm really excited. I honestly, it still kind of boggles my mind to just say that, like, I created a city, like I built a city, and I can't imagine the funding and everything that goes on behind it. So I really credit him for that, and I'm really excited to see just how it grows, how it works out. And I believe construction, I think they said, is probably going to take like 10 years or something like crazy like that. But I mean, hey, it's just a start, and to be able to even, God forbid it doesn't even work out, I think even just being willing to take that step of faith, like we're just saying, taking that step and taking that initiative, I think that's really commendable and amazing. So honestly, shout out to Akon. Big ups to him, and I'm sure his whole team. I can't imagine trying to organize that and trying to get that done. So I'm sure there are so many people behind the scenes who may not be in the spotlight and getting credit, but I think they all deserve all their credit for doing that.
Now that's a big, mature, like really, really big and mature thing to do. You see rappers like Chance the Rapper giving back to their community, and just to see Akon do that on an international level, come from Africa, go to the United States, and actually go back into Africa, and not only donate to just his hometown or country, hometown or village, but he's actually building something there, building and making a huge impact instead of stopping at the simple, the normal, I bought my parents a house and a car, I paid off their mortgage. But to see him actually go and do that on his own, especially, fund a whole city and make, probably in my opinion, which is the biggest impact on Africa, biggest positive impact on Africa. Africa's had a crazy history of people coming in, taking stuff, and leaving a lot of wreckage and nonsense behind. But to see him actually go clean up his area is actually that's really commendable, and I hope he gets a lot of other artists. A lot of Afrobeat, a lot of African artists out here in America making it big. So I really hope they take his example and are encouraged and either, if not join him, go start their own initiatives. But I really, fingers crossed, praying that it really works out and he's martyr or a role model for those?
Not a martyr, you. Role model.
The M.
Role model. But yeah, for sure, because like you said, even before this, he had plans to provide electricity to some 600 million Africans without power in 2015 by installing solar solutions in 14 African countries. So he's been on his, helping the people and giving back wave, So, and I believe the article says that he moved to the United States to Union City, New Jersey at age of 7. So if he was here for a majority of his life, it would be easy for him to just
forget about where he came from.
Exactly. It would be so easy for him to forget about where he came from, but to be able to, use his money, his power, his status, his influence to give back, like you said, like that's really amazing. So I really hope all that goes really well. And also, music-wise, bro, he dropped an Afrobeat album and a Spanish album like a couple months ago, and I didn't hear anyone talk about it, but they were both fire. This is just a side note. I think for him to drop, and like he dropped them like 2 weeks back to back, like an Afrobeat album, like a Spanish album and an Afrobeat album, and they were both really good. So shout out to Akon. He's really diversified. You can see that he's you know, touching all different fields, has hands in many different pots, wearing a lot of different hats, and just not afraid to be different and to take that initiative. So I think we could definitely all learn a lot from his work ethic, and from his example. But yeah, for sure. So that wraps up today's episode. So I know it's a little bit different, so I want to thank you guys for sticking with us. Make sure you are subscribe on all our platforms. Remember, YouTube, Everybody Eats Podcast. Make sure you're checking out all our videos. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Share with your friends on our audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Make sure you leave a review, share with your friends. Follow us on Instagram at everybody_eats podcast. That's where we have all the videos from different podcasts. We shout out other podcasts. We put a lot of great content on there, so make sure you are in touch with us. And we have some big things coming in store. You know, we have a lot of people reaching out to a lot of people, so hopefully we can get some really dope guests. And I know, I want to say thank you to all our supporters who have been supporting us so far. And yeah, we look to collabing. If you guys have any people who you would think would go well on this podcast, make sure you message us. You can leave a comment on the YouTube page. You can message us on Instagram, Twitter, wherever. Reach out if you have anything you want us to discuss, any people you think that would be beneficial